Three, two, one, and welcome to another episode of the Hood Grace Podcast. My name is Rudy Rubio, Pastor Rudy Rubio, here this afternoon in the city of Linwood with my friend and homie ministry partner, Pastor Derrick Engoy. How do you pronounce your last name? Engoy?
Yes, all of the above.
All of the above.
I mean, I pronounce it Engoy because that's what my family pronounces it, but people say Engoy.
Okay, so
either one.
Pastor Engoy of the Branch Church in the city of Long Beach in the LBC.
Yeah.
And I say Engoy or Engoy because like the car envoy,
right?
You know,
yeah.
Chevy Envoy. So, but Pastor Derrick Engoy, please introduce yourself, brother, to the people that are watching or listening right now.
Yeah. Well, again, my name is Derrick Engoy, however. Yeah, what do you want to know?
Just introduce yourself to whoever. I said you're a pastor, but tell us about you, your family, your ministry, your church, the city you're at, like whatever you feel comfortable sharing, and we'll just get into some conversation after that.
All right, so yeah, pastor a church in the city of Long Beach called The Branch. We've been a church plant for about 5 years. Okay. Recently moved to our own facility.
That's so dope.
It is.
But
before we hit record, there was some facility stuff that we had to take care of before coming here, so I was kind of late. But so that's good. I have 3 boys. Married to Marissa since 2005. I'm not going to try to do the math. But 2005.
Whatever you don't get your anniversary twisted, bro. Don't get your anniversary twisted live on the air.
But June 25th, 2005. That's the date we got married. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to try to do the math. Cool. I'm a wordsmith, so I don't do well with numbers. Speaking of wordsmith, I also write poetry and do spoken word.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I do on the side. It's kind of a ministry. Antonio Appling, Powers One, shout out.
Homie.
That's right.
The death of Peter Pan.
Yeah. I'm on staff with him at Definitive Soapbox.
Okay, cool.
So I host with him sometimes. Okay. For the most part, I run the music aspect.
Okay.
For the
so
poetry.
you're a spoken word poet, but you're also a DJ.
I DJ back.
Or do you just you push play?
No, I actually DJ.
Okay.
I have my MIDI turntables. They're not, Technique 1600s like back in the day. But yeah, I do that. I can still juggle and scratch and stuff like that. But
nice. I can't even walk and chew gum at the same time.
But yeah, I grew up I was born in Guam. So I like to say this a lot, that I'm not a citizen of the United States. I'm a property of the United States.
Wait. So now I think I'm making the connection. So I met you. Well, actually, no. I just met you in person. What, a couple of weeks ago?
A couple of weeks ago at the VIP.
But we've been social media friends and in deep conversations about a whole bunch of stuff, right? And for the last 3 years.
Sure. Yeah.
At least 3 years.
Yeah.
Maybe even pushing for maybe. Because of a friend that we have in common, Andrew St. Nicholas, who is also Guamanian.
That's right.
So right now when I heard you say, I always thought you were Filipino.
Well, I am. So my parents are Filipino.
Okay.
And then my grandfather lived in Guam for the latter part of his life. He remarried. So a little correction, it's not Guamanian, it's Chamorran. If you want to get real technical. Right? So it's kind of like Guamanian is the equivalent to Indian. You know what I mean? You want to be more specific as to what tribe a Native American is. That's kind of, I'm not saying if you call the Chamorro Guamanian, they're gonna beat you up or anything like that. But
I'm trying to get jumped. I don't get it anymore for the same reason. Bro. I left that stuff alone.
So that's what that's all about. And so my grandfather remarried a Chamorran. Then my dad moved there. He moved back and forth from the Philippines to Guam, and then he got married, and then they lived in Guam after they got married, and then they had me.
And is your wife Filipino or
she is?
Okay, so your kids are,
I guess, just Filipino. But
what's
interesting is
I'm just asking. So I'm trying to politically correct here, bro.
What's interesting is my wife is from a different dialect in the Philippines.
Okay, not Tagalog.
So Tagalog is the national language.
Okay.
So my family is Ilocano, and her family is what they call Ilonggo, and I had no idea their kind existed. It was just because I grew up around Ilocano. Okay. And so even though we're both Filipino, we're different, kind of from the different islands. You know what I mean?
Y'all set tripping, y'all.
That's what it is. I mean, I think she's. I might get this wrong, but I think she's more from the north.
Okay.
And then my family's more from the south. Okay. of the Philippine Islands.
We're just Mexican, bro. We're all illegals. It doesn't matter. We're all illegals, bro. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here, man. I know
yeah.
we hung out for a little bit at the Nest's 5-year anniversary.
Yeah, it was 5 years.
It doesn't even seem that long. I remember I used to go in there before it was like it blew up, and I'd go in there with my Bible and go do, you know, like it was a spot where I can get away, nobody would know me, and now it's like, oh, forget about it, bro. Like that's not the spot I want to go to just get away. Not because it's not a good spot. It's just there's so much demand for it. You know, people out there waiting forever because it's dope. The food's good, the service is good. So shout out to Antonio and the staff at the Nest. You know.
Yeah.
And it was funny. It was weird. I told him, oh, let me introduce you to my friend. Well, actually, I'm meeting him for the first time today too.
It's an online friend right here.
Yeah. Shout out to the homie Kyle Blake who was hating.
Yeah, he's texting
Long
me
Beach.
too, man. Like,
yeah, he's texting me too, and he said, "You guys are cute with your headphones and computers, dorks."
That's right. We are cute.
Hater. I've had him on here a couple times, bro. I love that dude to death. He's one of my best friends. I'm grateful to God. I never thought that a white cop's son and his ex-thug, a Lutheran and a Reform guy walk into a bar.
I know.
But yeah, man, I remember Andrew St. Nicholas had reached out to me and asked me if I would be interested in doing this company of pastors type thing, you know? And I was like, company of what, you know?
Yeah.
And then I found out later on that it was a class he took in seminary that I also took in. And when the professor, the same professor he had started telling us about this thing called a company of pastors, I was like, oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, I know exactly what that is. And I was able to see what Andrew St. Nicholas had seen behind that video.
Yeah.
But all of us got together except for this one dude who couldn't make it, who could never make it because of his part-time job, right?
Yeah,
Because you were bivocational, you still are bivocational?
Well, it's interesting how it's set up for me. I guess I'm full-time present, I guess, for my church.
Mm-hmm.
But I get my income streams from 2 different avenues. So my church can only afford to pay me part-time, a part-time salary. And then the denomination, up until this coming August, have decided to kind of support financially.
Okay.
So what happened with us is we were a church plant for, I don't know how long, since 2014. And we're bouncing around all throughout Long Beach, different places, schools. We were at a homeless ministry center for about 2 years. And I was bivocational then, so I was doing different jobs.
Okay.
I was in print, working at my buddy's print shop. And then before my current reality, I was working for a nonprofit in the South Bay, teaching continuation high school kids creative writing.
So I remember you would be writing curriculum for stuff.
And I currently do.
You still do?
For them.
Okay.
But I was actually in class
Gotcha.
teaching 4 different high schools. So there was one in Watts, Wilmington, San Pedro, and Harbor City. And so
That's pretty
around.
dope, man.
Yeah. And so bouncing around with our church for the years that we were, last year our denomination came to us and said, hey, there's an opportunity for you guys to move and merge.
Before you go any further, do you want to share with the people who are watching and listening what denomination? Because they're probably thinking, oh, he must be some Reform guy too, you know?
I know, because all your guests are Reformed minus Kyle.
No, Kyle's Lutheran, bro.
No, so my denominational background is Foursquare.
Okay. Pentecostal.
Pentecostal.
Yeah.
So we're a little bit crazy.
No, I didn't say nothing, bro. So a Pentecostal and a Reform guy walk into a bar.
I know. So they came to us and said, hey, there's an opportunity for you to move into your own facility. Do you want it? And quite honestly, my wife and I were hesitant at first because we fell in love with the downtown culture of Long Beach.
Okay.
When we were at the homeless ministry center, I'd say maybe like 15% of our attendants were homeless folks.
Okay.
So,
from the Long Beach Rescue Mission, or
yes and no, just whomever. I mean, a lot of folks felt that, homeless folks specifically, they felt they couldn't go anywhere because they would, just because of the rejection they got.
Yeah, the way they look, the way they smell.
Yeah, so we were like, look, let's just jump in the fire.
Yeah.
We had some guys that are like, there's the one guy, I won't mention his name, but there were some Sundays he would walk in with 2 beers in his pockets, and I'm like, dude, at least have the decency to drink that before coming into church. Don't bring that here, you know.
Yeah.
So we were serving that community for a season, and we started outgrowing that space. So we had to move to a middle school to specifically for our kids. Mm-hmm. Our kids were in this really small library, and we were just bursting at the seams. And we're like, we need to prepare.
Yeah.
So we moved to the middle school down the street, and we were only there for a few months until the denomination came in and said, hey, at the turn of the year 2018, there's an opportunity. And so where this church sits now, it's on the east side of Long Beach, so it's more
no gang reference, no gang affiliation at all whatsoever. It's disclaimer.
It's more of it's more affluent.
Okay.
And so
which is not something that you were used to at all, right?
No, and honestly, it was something that I didn't want to, again, we built this community in downtown, but of course, it wasn't something that my wife and I could make the decision on our own.
Yeah.
It's not like a dictatorship, not a top down. It was a team dynamic that our council kind of prayed over and weighed out options, and it was unanimous on their end that it was something they wanted to do and felt called to do. And so as we submit to one another, right, the scripture says, and so we were like, okay, well, you know what, if the majority of our leadership wants to do this, let's take the dive too.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
And so we moved to the east side of Long Beach, and we celebrated our year there, April 1st, and it's in hindsight, it's been a wonderful journey.
Okay.
For me specifically, and this is no secret, I've told our people this, like, it's been excruciatingly painful for me as a visionary.
Okay.
Because we've been moving really slow. And if you know anything about vision,
you're like,
we just
you
want
and I are
to
on
go.
the same page. Like,
we just want to,
it's not going fast enough for you.
But the Lord kept telling me, you need to slow down, you need to be patient, because if you go, you're going to leave all these people behind, And so, through the merge, we've seen wonderful things happen. Of course, any transition, you're going to lose people.
Yeah.
So, the folks in the original location, a few of them went on to different churches.
Gotcha.
Again, and me coming in, you're talking about taking over a church where the senior pastor was there for about 20 years.
Yeah. And the average age demographic of the folks that were there, the saints?
I'd say they're more on the older end, predominantly white.
Hundreds, 90s, 80s, 70s.
Well, I won't say hundreds, but
but up there.
I would say anywhere like I'll say it this way. There's a good handful of folks 50 and above, but then there was a good, healthy number of those under that.
Gotcha.
And then we come in with mostly the youthful side. I'm 42, so I guess I'm
more youthful than them.
Yeah. And at the time, our leadership was mostly millennials.
Okay.
Like our worship team, mostly millennials.
Wow.
And mostly Filipino American.
Yeah.
So you take the predominantly white culture of East Long Beach at the church, and then you have this crazy diverse group coming in, and so now you collide them together, and you have this beautiful mixture of diversity.
I would assume that there would be people on both sides that embrace the diversity as well as some that push back on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We did lose some, of course. We lost most of our homeless, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about a good hour bus ride from
Wow.
downtown. But the upside is we do have a handful of folks who still take the bus ride over. They've decided, hey, I love the culture that the branch has.
This is my church.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking of one guy who he takes the bus every Sunday, and he serves on our welcoming team.
Wow.
Great guy. And so we have sprinklings of those kind of folks who who will make the journey.
That's funny you say that. There's a couple that come to our church. I won't say their names because I don't want to embarrass them, but because they stay at the Mission in downtown LA.
Okay.
And they're in a program there, and they're now able to leave like on day passes. Yeah. And bro, they drive. Not drive. They take the bus. It's almost a 2-hour bus drive for them to come. I'm like, bro, why do you come all the way over here? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, we're grateful for you.
Yeah.
They just like, I love the church. I love the teaching. I love the theology behind it. So. Now I'm thinking, hey, maybe I gotta ask them. Would you? Because they always get here early because they come on the bus, right?
Yeah.
Hey, would you mind serving on the welcoming team because you're always here early,
Yeah, we taught this particular guy how to do pour-overs. So.
You guys are a coffee church.
So we are a coffee snob. Well, I am. So
no,
I'm a coffee snob.
I never said snob. I never said.
Hey,
snob.
I don't mind calling myself a snob. I mean. I told the guys on our team, I was like, because we were brewing Kirkland Folgers and stuff like that. I'm like, we need to step up our game a little bit. Because prior to coming in, we actually were brewing our own. We partnered with this coffee shop. Props to Solid Coffee in Cerritos or Artesia, and they had this program where they would brand your company or your church, And since they have their own coffee shop now, they don't have the time. And so we actually are now serving another coffee shop, Slow Bar Coffee. Yeah. And so, we get whole beans and we grind them, on an as-needed basis. And so we taught this guy how to do pour-overs,
Oh, wow.
And so he does that. And So yeah, we have some really good coffee.
See, if you look behind you directly in my kitchen, you'll see a transparent thing of Taster's Choice, bro. That's what we drink. That's how we get down, bro.
That's not Sanka.
Hey, and if you see the silver pot directly behind it, that's my pour over thing. That's where I boil the water, bro. Old school. You know?
I got it.
But what's tell us some of the challenges as well as perhaps some of the victories, because you said it was painfully. What was the word you used again?
Excruciatingly painful.
Having to wait, the patience,
having
right?
to wait,
because you're visionary. Now, as far as ministry, right? Whether it's the church plant or the merge, just some challenges that you would like for other people to be aware of if they're considering planting a church, or if they're a part of a church plant and could be experiencing the same thing.
Oh, so you're talking about before we merged to our own space?
Whatever it is you want to share.
Yeah.
You know, because one of the things you could say, like, hey, you know what? When we planted, this was it, but actually, you know, the merge kind of like takes the cake. You know.
Yeah. Well, some of the challenges, if I'm looking back over the past 5 years, finding a sense of stability because we moved around so much.
Got you.
And you know, personally, when we planted, so I came from a fairly large church, right? I was a campus pastor at a church in Harbor City, whose role was to make sure both campuses were unified.
Okay. You were the bridge between the two.
Yeah, and the challenge, that was challenging because you're talking about trying to bridge first generation Filipinos, immigrant cultures with second gen, you know, which was the Harbor City campus. And
yeah.
So I got really tired and burnt out by the machine of church culture. And I'm not saying the branch was a result of my frustrations with church. It just, I think the Lord just already had it in mind to make this happen. And so
I'm reformed, so I would tend to agree with you.
So I you know, we dove in, and it was exactly what I wanted it to be, nomadic, the church politics wasn't there.
Yeah.
And again, I don't say this to put down the church I came from.
Sure.
The Lord's using them to do some great things. I'm still growing in numbers, and it's amazing. In fact, I just met with the pastor there maybe a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And got to see the facility a little bit. They've done amazing things there. So, but for my personal life, I just got really tired and burnt out from, like I said, the church machine. So when we planted, it was great. Like it was
a visionary's dream.
Yeah,
you get to create culture out of nothing.
Yeah, but what I began to realize is that the church at large wasn't me. It wasn't my personality. It wasn't my gifting. And so when we were at that first school, I think the idea of setting up and breaking down, it was sexy at first. It was fun at first, and then people were just, you can feel it. Like people were tired, and I get it. And then we moved to this homeless ministry center, which allowed us somewhat of a sense of stability, because we didn't have to break down as much. It was a great partnership with that particular organization. They allowed us to store our stuff there. We left most of our sound equipment on stage. But just, again, like I said, the lack of stability began to become challenging over time.
Yeah. Knowing
that we were outgrowing the space and just thinking about having to move to a new location. And I knew it took a toll on some of our people. And so that was challenging.
And what would you say that just completely overshadows all that with some of the greatest victories? Like, hey, you know what? That is nothing in comparison to what we celebrate with.
Well, yeah. I mean, I keep going back to that homeless ministry. When you see folks, again, I go back to the dude who does pour-overs, right? Here's this guy who was living on the streets, and I'm not saying it was all us, because it was in partnership with that particular organization that allowed us to have church there. And so when you see a life like that transformed, I mean, his story is he would argue with Christians. In his own words, he said he would even make Christians cry.
Wow. A modern day Saul.
Sure, yeah. And now, I mean, he attends our weekly Bible studies. Like I said, he serves Sunday morning. So you see lives like that transformed. Even some of the families who didn't come with us, the homeless families, you see them getting off the streets, because of our investment in their lives.
That's beautiful.
The whole empowerment aspect, when we see folks being empowered to not just serve in ministry specifically, but just being empowered to live their lives.
I think for me, one of those things, sorry to intrude,
no.
Derrick, is when you know you're used by God to help people find their identity.
Yeah.
Their true identity.
Absolutely.
Because yesterday we had one of our sisters share a church for Easter. We're not a church where we do testimonies all the time, and we don't judge anybody that does that. Just we reserve that for like Easter, for Christmas, when you're gonna have those, what you say, CEOs, those Christian
Easter only
people.
Folks.
We want people to hear, not just, and we want them to hear the gospel, but we want them to see and hear people who have actually been transformed by the gospel. And we had a sister, I won't share her name, but she shared to the church yesterday how her and her family were homeless for a while, living in their car. And God drew them to our church, and through our church, not our church saved them, but through our church, God has worked in their lives. And to see them praising God every single Sunday, despite their hardship, is like, man, it's amazing, bro. Yeah. And that kind of overshadows all the times that I've literally wanted to bang my head against the wall, like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, for sure.
But so we talked about the church, about church planting, this merge. Tell us about your spoken word ministry.
Yeah, well, I got into spoken word back in '94, so I've been doing it a long time, even before
it got cool.
Well, yeah, I guess, but even before I took God seriously. So a lot of my early work was just non-godly. Yeah. And even now, it's not like I'm only going to write about God. I'll write about I write a lot of haiku. So if you look at the traditional form of haiku, it's capturing nature, right? So I guess you can argue God is in nature. So I'm always writing about God if you want to, take it to that. Yeah. But it's not just straight up gospel poetry. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Jesus.
But I have a good mixture of the two. So I've been writing since '94. I have a few books out.
You want to tell us about those books in case anybody wants to grab them on Amazon or where they can find them at?
Yeah, just look up my name; they'll pop up.
Derrick Engoy.
Yeah,
not Engoy.
Or my website, derrickengoy.us, and all that is there. But yeah, like I said, I've been doing it since '94, performing. I was in a band, so the band was more. We were labeled hip hop, but it was really spoken word. At least my aspect was spoken word. There's two of us in there, and so I've been doing some form of performance poetry for a long time. And then I took God seriously. I started using my poetry to share the good news,
to glorify Him.
Yeah, and churches would invite me to do special numbers. And it was good, especially when we were church plant, because a lot of churches would invite me, and they give you love offerings and stuff like that. Especially as a church plant,
you with a hat,
and then I would do other things that weren't, church oriented. I'll go to coffee shops, I'll go to bars, I'll go to different places where it's interesting. Like I'll go in, I'll share a Jesus poem, and I'll get into some amazing conversations with people.
That's dope.
Where they're like, "Oh, I never saw it that way," or I've done stuff like Rhetoric. Rhetoric is one of the largest Christian.
I know them cats.
Yeah, so I did that a couple years ago. But now I'm involved with the Definitive Soapbox that we talked about earlier. Antonio.
I went once. Antonio was always Antonio. I promise you, if I had time to do anything, I would probably sleep, bro. I'd probably sleep. It's funny you mention that because have you heard the name Liz Weiss?
No.
Oh my gosh, bro. Liz, if you are listening, please forgive him. He knows not what he says. You can thank me later. Liz Weiss.
Okay.
Bro, she is so dope.
Yeah.
She was down here and she had this gig at this like dive bar out in West Hollywood somewhere. We get them like, what the hell is this? Liz, like, what are you doing here, Every single one of her songs talks about God, bro. Every single one of her songs is about Jesus, whether it's blatant out there, like in your face, or subliminal, or just threaded into the fabric of every song. And she had people just vibing as she was singing about Jesus, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's dope to see people responding to the music with the message that's being presented.
Yeah, well, like Lauren Daigle, right? She's up on, what's her face, Ellen, singing. She's getting a lot of flack for it, but she's there singing about Jesus, right? Yeah. But yeah, so I've been into it for a while. Again, like I said, I'm on staff member at the Definitive Soapbox, and we do our thing every last Friday in the city of Long Beach.
You want to tell us where it's at?
Yeah, it's at a coffee shop called Fox in Long Beach. It's in a section of Long Beach called Wrigley. Okay. It's right off the 710. Every last Friday we
is there a cover charge? Is it free?
So it's free. We do have up to up to 20 open mic spots, and then we usually bring out 2 featured artists.
Okay.
Either local or nationwide. And if you know anything about poetry, we have folks like Rudy Francisco.
Yeah, I know.
Folks from the Poetry Lounge out in Fairfax. Local guys like Micah is gonna be the feature this coming Friday.
Okay.
Micah Mornay. And it's a wonderful. The majority of us are Christian on staff, but there are some who aren't.
Yeah.
And that's on purpose.
And that's okay.
Yeah, and and we're able to engage in a community. I'll only speak from kind of how I see it as a believer and as a pastor. Is I'm able to connect with folks who will never step foot into my church.
Yeah.
But I can have amazing conversations about Jesus, about life, about religion.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Forged a great friendship with Sheila. She's on staff, and she grew up Muslim. She's not a practicing Muslim now, but she grew up Muslim.
Culturally.
Yeah. And so, but we have an amazing connection and friendship, like I said, and so it's given us a great opportunity to build community. Really.
Yeah. So there's one thing that I want you to do before we go. I want you to be able to tell us when we connected at the Nest 5th year anniversary. I mentioned to me you have a podcast that you're getting ready to start.
Yeah.
So please tell us about the podcast. I have no problem at all with helping you promote your podcast. If anybody's listening, that they would check it out. Like Derrick is all about Jesus. He's all about reaching the lost, whether it's through poetry or homeless people. So, bro, I would love to be able to help you in any way, shape, or form I can with the small platform that God has given me to help you do your thing, man. So tell us about the podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. So my 4th publication came out about 2 years ago called Breathe.
Okay.
And my manager at the time, we were asking, like, okay, so what else can we do to promote this or to come up with some other supplementary kind of angle? And she was like, have you ever considered doing a podcast?
Yeah.
I said, no.
Yeah.
And she said, well, let's talk about that. And we actually started forming the backbone to what it could look like. And of course, life got busy, life got in the way. And so it's been actually in the lab for about 2 years.
Okay.
And so the name of the podcast is actually Breathe.
Breathe.
Same name as the book. But it's Breathe, the Breathe Faith and Creativity podcast. And
so that's the official name. So if somebody wants to look it up on iTunes, what do they have to look up specifically?
Breathe, Faith and Creativity.
Breathe, Faith and Creativity.
Yeah. Or they can look up my name. It'll pop up.
Derrick Engoy.
Yeah.
There it goes.
Which, if they look up my name, it'll probably show up on your podcast because it'll come up. But so the idea is having conversations with people. The majority of them have been Christian, but anyone who has a faith background and who are in any form of creativity. So,
so it's not just limited to Christians.
No.
Okay.
No. So, for instance, we're gonna interview a person who started their own barbecue sauce company.
Oh wow! Can I get to meet the person?
Yeah, of course.
I'll do quality control.
Yeah, another girl who's a pastry chef.
Okay.
Of course, we have a litter of poets on there.
Wait, pastry chef? You got to get our girl on there, bro.
Yeah. Well,
have you heard of Patria Coffee?
Yeah.
She does all the
Shout out
pastries.
to Jeffrey.
Shout out to Jeffrey. Shout out to Wistful Pastries.
Yeah. So yeah, and then we have of course poets. We have painters. I'm sure you know Ronnie Robles. We got him.
Yeah.
Artist, so he's on the pod.
Where are you at, bro?
Yeah, exactly. So and the question is, how does your faith play a role in your creativity?
Gotcha.
If any.
As far as creativity or how they put their gift to use, and I tell you because I think of Ronnie and I think of the homie, Richie Kong, and how they serve.
Yeah.
Like they've helped us with the Compton Initiative. They used to help us with our own spoken word fundraisers we had for church planting when I was still at Emmanuel and Paramount. And most recently, Richie's helping us lead the way with our Linwood Commitment, which is our Linwood version of the Compton Initiative with our mural program and beautification. So I think that's dope when they can take their God-given talent and use it right for the community.
Yeah, and even one of the questions that we always ask on the show is, how have you experienced God in your creativity?
Got you.
And so that opens the doors. Like for instance, I think it's the second show when it launches. We talked with a guy who's diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
Okay.
And he went on meds, and like most people, meds don't make you feel very well. But he found a love and a passion for painting.
Okay.
And he's able to heal, and painting has helped him in his bipolar disorder.
It's therapeutic for him.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
So he's actually been able to wean off of the drugs.
Wow.
And it's now art therapy.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, you know, and he once rejected Jesus. He's okay with Jesus now. I mean, but he wouldn't call himself like a...
He ain't hashtag Team Jesus. Yeah.
Right, you know. But he, in the podcast, and you'll hear it when it comes out, is that how he's been able to experience healing and the touch of God through painting. You know, and so stories like that. We have Michael Burnett on the first show, talking about, you know, guns and gun violence in America, and just his faith background growing up, and so that's the whole just premise of the show. We have some voice actors who are going to be on the show too, and just how their journey has taken them into the entertainment business and how they live out their faith there, you know. Okay. So it's wonderful. Like I said, it's going to launch in June.
Any specific date or?
The first Monday of June. I don't know what that date is, but the first show will be up on the first Monday of June, and then every Monday a new episode will launch. And we're going to do it in a seasons format, which means we're going to go from probably June till about September.
So in other words, you're going to be organized, not like me.
Well, I'm going to try to be organized.
You're going to be structured, not like me.
And then we'll take a break for a few months, and then come back next year with a new season. Yeah. Try to do maybe anywhere from 18 to 24 episodes a season. Okay. Just because I don't burn myself out. Yeah. You know, with the family, a church, you know, all the things I got going on in the community. Yeah. You know, and so it's just more healthier for me.
No, that's good, bro. I do the same thing. I do this seriously, right? Because this is therapeutic for me too. Yeah. For me to be able to sit down and talk to another pastor, another church planner, like not that far away, and be able to talk about stuff that we've experienced. Like last week, DA was here, and then I've had Kyle, and all of us have our challenges, and to be able to talk to somebody, right, that can empathize with what you've gone through, you know, and do it on a platform where people are hearing us, and our faith is even stronger than before because of how we've seen God show up with the homeless dude now who's doing pour-overs and stuff like that, you know. So I think it's dope. This is therapeutic for me. I love it. I wish you much success.
Oh, thank you.
With that platform, that you don't burn out, that everything goes according to your plan. My plan is I'm going to get to it as soon as I get a minute. As soon as I get a chance. That's why today when we were the technical difficulties, we're talking about being property owners now. Yeah. You know, we're in a situation where we rent. In a situation probably similar to what that was, but probably exponentially in that range, whatever that means. But we're always praying that we would get gifted with something the way you are. So when you say, be careful what you wish for, I'm like, bring it on, brother, bring it on. I don't care, you know? Yeah. But that's why to me when you said, hey, we got to bump back, we might change, I'm like, okay, kids are on spring break, I don't care, let's do this, you know?
Yeah, appreciate your flexibility too.
No, for sure, man. Anything else you want to share with the people that are watching or listening? We haven't had many questions, but my friend Kelly Smith, she says she needs to check out your podcast. The homie, my sister Joanna Barrio, is probably either on her lunch break or ditching work or on her way home or on a break doing something she's not supposed to be. She just chucked up deuces. I tell you, Kyle was hating and said we looked like dorks. A shout out to my brother Jesus Jesse Garcia in Compton. He's a part of our church. Love seeing. You want to hear about a dude that argues with his dad all the time, but they fight about theology. Isn't that dope, bro? Yeah. Isn't that dope? Like I'll get calls from him, and whoever's listening, they know I mention him all the time because he always chimes in while we're recording, right? Yeah. Joanna, you're not on your break. You're not on your break. You're ditching. I'm gonna take a screenshot right now and send it to your boss. No. But his dad is like hardcore Calvary Chapel South Bay, and Jesse is like hardcore Reform. So they be going at it, bro. And I'll be getting calls like all middle of the night, like, hey pastor, can you talk to my dad real quick? Or how about this, and this? But I told him, bro, it blesses my heart to know that as many problems as kids can have with their parents, like y'all are arguing about theology. Praise God, you know. Cool. But hey, anything else you want to share with anybody before we call it a wrap for the day?
Yeah, you talked about podcasting being therapeutic for you, and that's one of the other reasons why, and not just podcasting, but poetry and
all your creative arts.
Yeah, it's what fills me. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not secretive about this, but I've had struggles with depression and suicide and anxiety, and that came from a place of just trying to do too much out. How can I say this? Because I'm doing a lot.
What's changed, right?
Right. So in that season, I was doing a lot of things that weren't necessarily filling for me. Right. So
it was the machine you were talking about.
Yeah. Earlier. And so, especially in ministry, if you don't have an avenue of how can I put it this way? If you don't have a place where you're being filled, and you're constantly just pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring, you're gonna eventually get into this place of emptiness.
Yeah, you got nothing to give.
Yeah, and so that's what poetry and podcasting is for me. Now, out of the context of ministry, I would encourage someone, because whether it's your job, whether it's life, just life itself can become busy, and anyone can fall into the context of being empty. And so I would encourage to find that hobby, to find that creative avenue to just fill yourself. I still skate, and so that's another avenue. Like if my wife, I can come home, and my wife is really great at sensing when I'm just spent. Yeah. She's like, look, go out, don't come in the house, grab your skateboard and just go skate.
Get out of here, yeah.
And so just finding ways where you can just, and I love how Jesus, right, if I want to bring it back to the whole spiritual aspect, right, he summed up the 10 Commandments, right? Love God and love others. But then most Christians stop there. And they forget the last part of that statement is love others as you love yourself.
And we're some pretty selfish individuals.
Yeah, But God gives us permission to love ourselves. Mm-hmm. God gives us permission to pour into ourselves. God gives us permission to pamper ourselves, if you will, because we can't love others to the extent we don't love ourselves. So if we don't have love for ourselves, if we're not taking care of ourselves, how can we show love to other people? And so that's where the filling comes for me. And so I would encourage someone out there, find that one or two hobbies that you just, it's okay. Like, it's okay to spend 1 or 2 hours on a Saturday just on yourself.
See, this episode just got delayed another 5 to 10 minutes because now I got to respond.
Yeah, man.
No, for real. It's because it just got prolonged because as you're talking, I'm thinking like that used to be handball for me.
Yeah.
Like I go and I just make a ministry of it. Get up 5 to 10 dudes. Yeah, you know what I mean? Sometimes I'm on social media, not that much, But a couple of dudes that come from similar backgrounds of mine, like you go to the projects, and if you go to like a predominantly African American project, black project, you'll see the basketball courts in good shape and the handball courts full of shrubbery courts. Yeah, because nobody really plays handball. A lot of the guys that I've grown up with, people even at my church, dudes at our church that we come from similar backgrounds, been in prison and doing time, so we love playing handball. It's therapeutic to sit there and talk trash and go grab breakfast afterwards, pray together, and let that be a witness to the people in the park,
Yeah.
I'll say it on the air. And recently, I found that in cigar smoking, to where it's like, it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
I don't do it a lot, but still, and I got to find healthier things to do anyways. I went to the doctor, she was like, you smoke? Define smoke.
Yeah.
Because technically it's not inhaled, you know what I mean? Technically it's not inhaled. Sound like Clinton?
Well, I was gonna say that.
Yeah,
Clinton said
yeah. But yeah, therapeutic. And you know what I did yesterday, Derrick? I got up at maybe 5:15 in the morning. Like God woke me up after an extremely long week because we had like a Monday, Thursday service. We had a Good Friday service, and so we did a total of 4 services within 8 days.
Wow.
Sunday, Palm Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Good Friday, and then Resurrection Sunday. Right? I was spent, bro. Like I was spent before I even got up, to go to our church. So I got up and I tried just laying in bed and praying, and that wasn't working. I just felt restless, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna go to church. And I went back to my old church, to Emmanuel Reformed Church, where we came out of, because I know they have a sunrise service. I know a lot of people there, but I just wanted to go somewhere, and I don't want to be in charge of nothing.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to worry about preaching, about the pro presenter, about the sound, about worship. I just wanted to go and lift up my hands in praise and be poured into and leave, and not have to worry about picking up, about follow up. So I hear you, but like I needed to do that. It was just one of those moments where I just needed to go and get poured into, because come 12 noon that day, I was going to be the one pouring out, and I needed to get my cup full. So thank you for mentioning that, man. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Well, I'm glad that you had a chance to come on. I'm glad that you had a chance to tell us about the branch in Long Beach, to tell us about some of the nomadic, issues. Like me, that's one of the things I didn't want to do. It's like we found a spot. I wanted to make sure we stood this so we can create this image, right?
Yeah.
And people would know that this is where we're at, and this is where they can come find us. And I was always scared as I would read books about church planting, how they would bounce around, but like, but what about the people? Like, what if somebody comes and you're promoting it? What if somebody comes like a month from now and you're not there, you're someplace else? God will take care of it.
Oh, yeah.
God will take care of it. But thanks for telling us about your podcast. Of
course.
About the definitive soapbox, about your church, and some of the stories that you said, they're pretty dope, man.
Oh, thank you.
I don't think we got any other questions other than his Jesse Garcia saying cage stage or stand up. You know what that is?
I don't know.
So here's it's in the reform world. When somebody becomes reformed, right, or God illuminates them with reformed theology, we say that we have to put them in a cage because they want to pick fights with everybody, right? So we call them that they're in their cage stage of Calvinism. We got to put them in a cage and let them simmer down before we can release them out into the open and they don't actually hurt people. So fighting with his dad, he's saying cage stagers stand up. But anyways, Pastor Derrick, thank you so much for being here. You all make sure you guys check into his podcast. It's going to be Breathe:
Faith and Creativity,
which comes out the first Monday in June.
Yep.
Check him out. Check out the Definitive Soapbox at the Fox Coffee House.
Yep.
In Long Beach.
Yep.
And it's what day of the month?
Every last Friday.
7
o'clock.
And if you guys are on the east side of Long Beach, I don't want Calvin to say right. If you guys are on the east side of Long Beach, right, and you're looking for a church, you should stop by the branch on Sundays at what time?
10:30.
10:30. What's the address there, Derek?
3445 Studebaker Road. You can go.
Is that by the traffic circle?
No, it's actually near the Long Beach Town Center.
Oh, okay. I know where that's at.
Yeah.
I know where that's at.
You can go to the branch lb.church and all the information's there.
The branch lb.church.
Yep.
Derek, thank you for being here. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks
I'm excited to hear your podcast coming out on the first Monday of June. For everybody up until then, this is Pastor Rudy Rubio of Reformed Church LA in the city of Linwood, Pastor Derrick Engoy of the Branch Church in the city of Long Beach. Just real quick, a plug to this episode's sponsor is Richard Sperling of Keller Williams Coastal Properties. If you're looking for a place, if you want information, hit him up. He's a great man of faith. I have deep respect for him. I had him on the show about a month or two ago, Derek, to ask him, what is it like to be in an industry where you got to be honest because you're a Christian.
Yeah.
But you can't be scandalous and do people dirty just to make your commission, you know? And we kind of talked about that. But hit him up, 562-208-5662, or hit him up by email at richardsperling@kw.com. Until then, this is Hood Grace. Peace out.
Peace. Cool.